The story begins with a wealthy American businessman named Park. His son is sick, suffering from a mysterious illness that has baffled even the best doctors. Every avenue of modern medicine has been explored, but nothing seems to work. Desperate and running out of options, Park and his wife decide to seek help from Korea. They call upon a shaman named Haram and her assistant. Shamans are believed to be able to communicate with spirits and solve problems rooted in the spiritual world. Haram, although skeptical, agrees to help. The family's desperation touches her heart. She performs a ritual on the young boy, hoping to find answers in the realm of spirits. What she discovers is unsettling. The child's illness seems to be linked to his ancestors, specifically his grandfather or great-grandfather. It suggests that something from the family's past is reaching out to affect the present. To unravel this connection, Haram visits Park's home. She learns that the family immigrated from Korea generations ago. Park's grandfather is paralyzed, and his great-grandfather, a veteran of the Korean War, passed away a century ago. His grave is in Korea. Park reveals a chilling pattern. The eldest son in each generation of his family has been afflicted by a similar, unexplained illness. His own older brother died from this very same affliction. Now, the cycle seems to be repeating itself with Park's son. Haram assures Park that she will do everything she can, but she warns him that this is a complex situation. It might require a trip to Korea to investigate the great-grandfather's grave. The scene shifts to Korea, where we meet Kim, an expert in feng shui. His expertise lies in finding suitable burial grounds for the deceased, ensuring their spirits can rest in peace and harmony. Kim believes that if a spirit is disturbed, it can manifest as problems for their living relatives. He recounts a recent case he dealt with. An old woman's spirit was tormenting her family in their dreams. It turned out her grandson had kept her teeth after her death. When they placed the teeth back in her grave, the problem was solved. Haram seeks out Kim, explaining the strange illnesses that plague Park's family and their possible connection to the great-grandfather's grave in Korea. Kim, intrigued by the mystery, agrees to help. The following day, Park meets with Kim to discuss exhuming his great-grandfather's remains. Exhumation, the act of digging up a body that has been buried, is a serious undertaking, but Park is desperate to save his son and break the cycle of suffering that has plagued his family for generations. Park leads Kim to the grave. It's located on a remote mountainside, far from any formal cemetery. Foxes are seen in the area, which is considered a bad omen, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. The grave itself is unmarked, raising further concern. Park explains that his great-grandfather, a general in the Korean War, was buried by the army in this isolated location. Kim, who is sensitive to spiritual energy, can sense a strong, malevolent presence at the gravesite. He warns Haram about the potential dangers involved and advises her to stay away. He fears that the forces at play are beyond their control and could pose a significant threat to their well-being. However, Park's plea to save his dying son is heartbreaking. Seeing his desperation, both Kim and Haram agree to perform a ritual at the grave in an attempt to appease whatever may be disturbed there. The exhumation begins. Park's aunt is present because her permission is needed before the grave can be disturbed. Haram prepares for a powerful ritual meant to ward off evil spirits and protect those involved in the exhumation. The ritual is elaborate and intense, involving chanting, drumming, and a trance-like dance performed by Haram. She even cuts herself and drinks the blood of sacrificed pigs as part of the ceremony. The ritual continues with unwavering intensity until the great-grandfather's bones are unearthed. Just when it seems the worst is over, a worker discovers a snake with a human-like head inside the grave. It's a horrifying sight and an ill omen. The weather changes abruptly, turning dark and stormy, as if mirroring the growing sense of dread. Kim, who had planned to cremate the bones as a way to release the spirit, is now forced to reconsider. He believes the spirit is attached to the bones and that immediate action is needed to prevent any further negative repercussions. Kim decides to investigate the history of the grave. He travels to the nearby village to learn what he can. It turns out that many of the villagers are unaware of the grave's existence, and those who do know of it believe it to be cursed. One villager, motivated by greed, hears about the exhumation. He decides to break open the great-grandfather's coffin, hoping to find valuables. This reckless act unwittingly unleashes the enraged spirit, which is now free to seek revenge. Haram, luckily, witnesses what the villager has done. She immediately starts another ritual, attempting to contain the vengeful spirit. However, her efforts are in vain. The spirit is already on its way to America, determined to make Park's family pay for their perceived neglect and disrespect. The spirit arrives in America and, without hesitation, attacks and kills Park's parents. Then, it sets its sights on Park himself. Kim, sensing the impending danger, calls Park to warn him. As they are talking, Park hears a knock on his door. Kim, assuming he has arrived to help, tells Park not to open the door, but to open the window instead. Unbeknownst to Park, the spirit is cunning. It has disguised its voice to sound like Kim on the phone, and Park, trusting the voice, opens the window. The spirit gains entry. Moments later, the real Kim arrives, only to discover that Park has been possessed by the vengeful spirit. Speaking through Park, the spirit reveals the depth of its anger. It reveals how it amassed wealth by betraying its own people during the war, and how Park's family never acknowledged or honored the sacrifices made for their prosperity. They never even bothered to visit its grave. This perceived ingratitude has fueled the spirit's rage and desire for revenge. The possessed Park dies, and the spirit sets its sights on Park's wife and child, the remaining members of the family. Kim is now racing against time, desperately searching for a way to stop the spirit before it claims more victims. He realizes that the only solution is to cremate the great-grandfather's bones. This will sever the spirit's connection to the physical world and hopefully stop its rampage. He urgently contacts Park's aunt and convinces her to allow the cremation. The cremation takes place, and the vengeful spirit is finally destroyed. But just when it seems the ordeal is over, the story takes another unexpected turn. The man who helped dig up the grave is now plagued by terrifying nightmares. He's haunted by vivid visions of giant snakes with human heads. He confesses that during the exhumation, he encountered and killed a snake with a human head inside the grave. Kim, disturbed by this revelation, returns to the grave. He finds the dead snake, confirming the man's disturbing story. He decides to dig deeper, and to his surprise, discovers another coffin buried beneath the great-grandfather's grave. This coffin is standing upright, which is very unusual. Kim immediately calls Haram and her team, requesting their help to investigate this new development. They carefully remove the mysterious coffin and transport it to a nearby temple. Fearing it might contain another malevolent spirit, Haram performs a sealing ritual, hoping to contain whatever might be inside. Kim and Haram then go to visit Park's aunt, seeking information about this hidden coffin. She reveals a shocking truth. Park's great-grandfather was not Korean, as they had always believed. He was Japanese. This revelation throws everything they thought they knew into question. Meanwhile, at the temple, Haram's assistant is suddenly attacked by a terrifying 7-foot-tall figure. He manages to call out to Haram for help. At that moment, Haram is having a dream. She's in the spirit world, learning from her shaman grandmother. The grandmother senses that danger is close and tries to prevent Haram from leaving. But Haram wakes up, startled by her assistant's cry, and rushes to his aid. They arrive at the room where the coffin was placed, only to find it empty. The only thing left inside is a samurai helmet. They realize with a jolt that the coffin had contained the spirit of a Japanese soldier. Suddenly, the ghostly samurai appears before them, demanding food. Haram tries to trick the spirit by pretending to be a harmless tree spirit, but the samurai sees through her deception and attacks. In a selfless act of bravery, Haram's assistant sacrifices himself to protect her, giving her a chance to escape. Kim and his sister arrive at the temple, just in time to witness the full terrifying power of the samurai ghost. As dawn approaches, the ghost weakens and retreats, revealing its vulnerability to daylight. They realize that the ghost is only powerful at night. Back at the hospital, they learn that Haram's assistant is still clinging to life, but he has been possessed by the samurai spirit. They deduce that the ghost is guarding something very important that lies buried at the original gravesite. Determined to unravel this mystery and put an end to the haunting, Kim returns to the grave. He encounters the ghost again, confirming that it remains bound to that location during daylight hours. While at the grave, a seemingly insignificant detail suddenly comes back to Kim. He remembers Park's cryptic words, "A fox attacked a tiger's bone." He realizes that this is a metaphor for Korea, whose shape on a map resembles that of a tiger. He researches further and uncovers a hidden history. During the war, the Japanese had performed rituals, burying metal rods throughout Korea. These rods were meant to disrupt the energy of the land, weakening the nation's spirit and strength. Korean shamans discovered this plot and managed to remove most of the rods, but one remained undiscovered. It was hidden within the body of a deceased Japanese general who had been buried standing upright. This vertical positioning mirrored the position of the other rods. And to conceal this final rod, Park's great-grandfather, also a general, had been buried on top of him. As night falls, the samurai ghost awakens, empowered by the metal rod within his body. Kim attempts to confront the ghost, but the spirit is too powerful. Kim is overpowered and possessed by the vengeful samurai. Haram tries to intervene, but the protective spirit of her grandmother shields her from harm. During a brief moment of lucidity, Kim notices the metal rod inside the ghost's body. He remembers that the ghost seemed to recoil from blood earlier. Without hesitation, he takes a wooden stake and smears it with his own blood. He then plunges the stake into the ghost. With a final, agonizing scream, the ghost is destroyed, and the last remaining threat to Korea is eliminated. The metal rod is removed from the ground, severing the last vestige of the Japanese ritual. With the ghost finally vanquished, Haram's assistant is released from its possession. Their long and dangerous journey has reached its end. They have faced unimaginable horrors and overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. Peace is restored to the land, and they themselves can finally breathe a sigh of relief. The story concludes with Kim's daughter's wedding, a joyous celebration filled with hope and new beginnings. Kim, surrounded by loved ones, seems at peace. He has found new allies in Haram and her assistant. They have faced darkness together and emerged stronger, their bond forged in the crucible of their shared experiences. The story ends with a feeling of closure, a sense that the past has been laid to rest and a brighter future awaits.